Hi everyone, welcome back to the Nico the Vet channel on YouTube. Thank you for dialing in, and thank you to everybody who has given me all the very pleasant comments about the posts that I've already made. So crack on straight away, get into it. I think today what we'll go into is what we as vets would call inappropriate elimination behaviour in cats, which is really just a highfalutin way of saying my cat is peeing all over the house. And in brackets, it's driving me nuts and I can't take it anymore. So what do I mean by that is many of us will have experienced this, where you have a cat, either a new cat to the household or a cat you've had for some time, some years perhaps, who suddenly will start peeing in the house. They'll pee in perhaps a particular corner of a room, on the floor or on the carpet, or they'll start peeing on furniture. My cat specifically did it on my brand new sofa, started peeing on the sofa. And others will start peeing up the walls, and sometimes you can't even distinguish where this cat's peeing. What gives it away is your house starts smelling like a litter tray, and your friends don't want to come and visit you anymore. So what's going on? Why would your cat suddenly start peeing all over the house? Why would they do that? Particularly if you say to me, well, he always goes out to wee normally, or he has a perfectly good litter tray, or he or she. What's that all about? The answer is, cats are peeing in the house and around the house in response to stress. So that's the first point to understand. It's a stress reaction which is going to make them pee everywhere. So a lot of people would counter me with that and go, no, that can't be it. My cat's not stressed. He looks perfectly relaxed. Everything's as it was. Everything's hunky-dory. So it's definitely not stressed, because I don't believe it. My answer to that is cats are masters of disguising their feelings and their emotions. And that's why there's this dichotomy between what me, the vet, is telling you that your cat is stressed, and you thinking that your cat is not stressed. You just have to take a leap of faith, and as the talk goes on, you'll see why it all makes sense. So the next question is, okay, well, if we accept that the cat is causing stress, firstly, why is the cat stressed suddenly? And the answer is they're very, very sensitive to change. Anything subtle, like just you've bought new furniture, as in my case, I bought a new sofa, which I thought was marvelous until the cat peed all over it. And other times it's more obvious. You've brought a new puppy into the home, or a new cat into the home, or your Auntie Mabel's moved in, or you've had building works done, or there's works going on outside, your neighbour's doing building works, or there's road works. Some sort of change in the cat's life that makes them perceive that there's some sort of threat out there. Now, you and I might know that the new sofa, or even just moving the furniture around, that's no threat at all, but the cat doesn't know that. And if you compare that to agoraphobia in human beings, people who have a stress and anxiety about leaving the house because they're afraid of what sort of dangers might be out there for them, they'll be the first ones to tell you it's not a rational thing. I mean, it feels very real. The emotion of anxiety and fear is very real, but if they try to understand it rationally, they'll tell you it's hard to explain, other than just you perceive a threat. The obvious, sort of strikingly obvious case would be if your neighbours just moved in, or they've with a new cat, or they've just bought a new cat, and there's this cat walking around outside staring in the windows at your cat. Now, it's important to note that you say, well, hang on, my cat shouldn't be worried, it's my garden and it's perfectly safe. Well, your cat doesn't know that, and although you may own the title deed to your house and your back garden, your cat doesn't own anything legally. There are no legal agreements in the cat world. It's basically law of the jungle, biggest cat, scariest cat, most aggressive cat, winner takes all scenario. So you don't own your garden. Your cat may have owned it until somebody else has moved into the area and their cat has staked a claim to it, and they're just bigger and meaner than your cat, so your cat has taken flight and refuge in the house. Or you may just have moved in, and although you think you've bought the back garden, the cat next door doesn't think you have, and they still have a claim to it. So your poor old cat has to go out there and face the music, literally, and there can be some horrible punch-ups between the cats. We've all heard that awful yowling and screaming with the altercations between cats. So your cat doesn't own that property. So either you've just moved in, or someone else has just moved in with a cat. Either way, your cat's going, oh my word, I'm not going outside. I just get beaten up every time I do, so I'm moving inside. So anything from very obvious to very subtle stresses. So why weeing? If we accept the cat is stressed, why weeing? Why have they taken to peeing all over the house? And that's because When cats are under stress, when they're under threat, whether it's a real or a perceived threat, when they're under that sort of duress, they want to reassure themselves that they're safe, that they've got some sort of sanctuary in the home. And the way to do that is mark it as their territory, and then as you walk around, you will get that reassurance from, yes, this all looks familiar, and I can see I've marked this as mine, and that will work. How does that work? Take the analogy of human beings, for example. If you look at sort of big inner cities, I have no direct experience of this, but if you read books like Cross and the Switchblade, these are well documented, where in big cities, in the inner cities, where there are different gangs about, and they all control different territories, every gang member will know exactly where their territory ends. They'll know what the northern border is, the southern, the eastern, the western, down to the road name, and even what part of that road they own, the east side or the west side. And then what they tend to do is you spray graffiti around to mark your territory. And that serves two purposes. If you're in a gang, and you're walking around an area and you know you're within your territory, and you see these visual markers, the graffiti that you've sprayed on walls and fences and bridges, that will give you a reassurance that, I'm on my turf, this is my territory, and I'm relatively safe here because this is my home range. And it also serves as a disincentive for neighbouring gang members who sort of accidentally or deliberately stray into your territory. They'll see these markings on the wall that you've done, the graffiti, and that will serve as a reminder to them, saying that you're in danger now because you've come into my territory. So cats work in exactly the same way. They want to mark their territory to get these visual and these chemical effectively graffiti signals to reassure themselves that, okay, I'm home, I'm in my environment, and I'm reassured by all the graffiti, in inverted commas, that I've sprayed around me, and hopefully that will deter the monsters that I perceive to be outside. It'll deter them from coming in to get me. So how would a cat mark their territory? What is the cat equivalent of spray painting graffiti all over the place? And the answer is, cats have really got three options. They can either mark territory with their pee, which is the one we're directly dealing with now, or they'll mark the territory by scratching it. And I think we're all familiar with seeing all cats, domestic and the big cats out in the wild, scratching upright surfaces like posts and trees and ripping them open. That also marks their territory via two ways. One is the visual marker, so you see the rip marks in the tree, and there's the visual marker that's my territory, and oh yes, I remember doing that, so this is my territory. But also some pheromones come out from their feet. Cats have sweat glands between their feet. It's the only place in their body, curiously, that they have sweat glands just between their feet. And as they're sort of scratching on things, not only are they leaving the visual marker, but they're leaving a chemical or a scent marker as they're wiping the palms of their hands down the tree. So the first marker is you pee on the house. The second marker is you scratch your house, particularly your new furniture. They'll scratch that. And thirdly is facial pheromone marking. I think we've all seen how the cat sort of will walk up to you and you think the cat's sort of loving you, and they're sort of rubbing their face up against you as they do, and they're sort of winding themselves around you. And if you look closely and watch your cat's behavior, you'll see not only are they doing that to you, but they are doing that to various surfaces around the house. And that's because they produce pheromones from this part of the face and the neck. And what they're doing is effectively trying to smear these pheromones all over you and objects in the house to mark their territory. So yes, you are one of their possessions. You are being marked as part of the territory, yes, but also part of their pack, which gives them reassurance, because now you smell like them, and so therefore you must be on their side, so you're an ally against all the dangers that they perceive. So what are pheromones? To be a little bit pedantic, a lot of people say, well, pheromones are sort of smells and scents that we all give off. To be very dogmatic about it, technically speaking, a pheromone is not a smell. It's a chemical marker. So it's a chemical that we release, that our bodies release, that is picked up through the vomonasal organ, which is sort of between our nose and our mouths. That picks up this sort of chemical marker, and then it sends a signal to the brain, which interprets it in a certain way, and we have a certain response. So in human beings, as a complete aside, what's quite interesting is they did a study at sort of pheromone attraction between human beings, and what they found was if they, I think they did the study with, they took men's t-shirts and they gave it to various women to smell, and they asked the women to rank the attractiveness of the smell of the t-shirt. Now I know I said pheromone is not a smell, it's a chemical marker, but I find it just makes it's easier to understand if we call it a smell or a scent. So I'm going to use the terms interchangeably. Forgive me, I should be pedantic and should be correct about it, but I find it much easier to get my head around if I think about it as a smell. So we go back to the study. What they did was they got men to wear t-shirts for a few hours, and then gave them to a group of women who didn't obviously know where the t-shirts came from, asked them just to smell the t-shirts and say whether they thought it was a nice smell or not smell. And we've all experienced that. Some people smell nicer than others. What came out of it was very interesting. The women in the sample were actually some brothers and sisters, and some were not. But what was very striking was the sisters, when they smelled the brothers' shirts, really, really, really didn't like the smell at all, whereas other women perhaps found it very pleasant. And so what they concluded from the study is one of the important functions of pheromones in attraction in human beings is it helps us to pick a mate with genes as diverse from our own as possible. What I mean by that is, if you're going to be looking for a mate, nature assumes we're all doing it for some sort of breeding purpose, then what you want is you want to select a mate with genetics very different from your own, which makes perfect sense, because we all know that if you intermarry, like the Egyptian royal families used to do, brother marrying sister, or the royal houses of Europe did for centuries, that's a problem, because if you have genetics very close to your own and you keep breeding on those very close genetics, you will bring out all the genetic flaws in that family line. So we should be breeding with someone whose genes are as different as possible to us. And this study with the t-shirts found that women found their brothers' t-shirts, and again they didn't know this, not an attractive smell, whereas and we think that's a mechanism built in by nature, that chemical marker tells us, no, don't pair with that person, pick somebody else. So that was a complete aside, but a very interesting study, just to show you that the power of pheromones in terms of informing our decisions. So, of course, these women's brothers, not all the women found them unattractive. If the other women's genetics were very different from these brothers, they would find them attractive. Just to these poor chaps, I don't want them to feel completely discarded. So, going back to the pheromones in cats. So cats have this as F3 facial pheromone that they make here, and they rub it on surfaces to leave that chemical marker there. And that way, when they walk around the house, and they're feeling a bit anxious about the change, whether it's there or not in reality. If they walk around and they can sort of smell, in inverted commas, if they can smell their facial pheromones on various surfaces, so the leg of the table and the door frame and the bed stand and so on throughout the house, and if they can smell those markers or pick up those chemical markers in the pheromones, that's reassuring to them. They go, well, that's me. I remember doing that, and it's me that's here. I don't see or smell any other cats, so I'm safe. But they'll supplement that by scratching on some surfaces, and again they'll walk through going, oh yes, that's me. I ripped the side of the sofa to bits, so that's me. No one else has done it, so that's reassuring to me that I'm the only one here. Then I'm safe. And nature is very economical. So given that the cat's got 3 ways of marking their territory, either pee on it or scratch it or rub your face on it. Nature being economical, you wouldn't do 2 or more of those things in the same place. So if you're going to go up to the sofa, you're either going to pee on it, or you're going to scratch on it, or you're going to rub your face on it. You're not going to do all 3, and that's where we get the advantage. So if we want to stop the bad behavior, we can tolerate the facial pheromone marking because it's a chemical marker that we don't pick up. So it's a subliminal thing. We're not consciously aware of it, so we don't care. You could spray the whole house down with female facial pheromones, and it wouldn't bother us at all as pet owners and as homeowners. So that's our bias. We want our cat to be marking the territory, doing the graffiti with the facial pheromones because we don't care about it. So what we try and do is wherever the cat is peeing or wherever the cat is traumatizing, so scratching with their nails, we want to put the facial pheromone there too. So when the cat comes up to top up the pee and goes, well, I remember peeing here last week, I need to keep it topped up so I can keep the graffiti fresh, and they get there to pee and they go, ooh, I can smell this, I can smell a facial pheromone, and I don't remember doing it, but I must have done it, so it's already taken care of. That's topped up the graffiti, so I don't need to do it. Similarly, when they come up to the chair leg or the table leg and they want to start ripping it up again with their claws, if you could apply a facial pheromone to that, same thing will happen. They'll come up to it and say, I need to top up the graffiti here, and they'll pick up the chemical marker, the smell again of the pheromone, and they'll go, oh, okay, I don't have to do that here either. I don't have to rip it because apparently I facially marked this. Don't remember it, but it served the purpose. And then next week when they come back to top it up, it'll be a facial pheromone that's sort of potentially dimming, and then they'll just take to facial marking it again. So you've basically just displaced the behavior. The cat doesn't really care which of the three, peeing or scratching or facial pheromones, is done, as long as the graffiti's there and as long as it's being kept topped up. So that's what gives us the edge, is you can buy a synthetically manufactured cat facial pheromone marker called Feliway. Now, important to say, I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'm not plugging anyone. I don't have any allegiance to any drug manufacturer. I have the good fortune to be able to pick and choose the best products from each manufacturer. So I cherry pick what I like, what works and what doesn't work. So Feliway is available on the market as a pheromone. It's the F3 cat facial pheromone, and it's very easy to use. You buy it in what looks like these air fresheners that people plug into the wall. So you get a little adapter, you plug it into your wall. It's got a little thing underneath full of fluid that you just sort of wind in, just like these deodorizers that people use in their houses to make their houses smell nice. But you screw that in, plug it in, and forget about it. One applicator lasts for about a month's time, and it releases this facial pheromone just into the whole house. So you've literally just imagined taking an imaginary hose pipe of pheromone and just going around your house and just spraying bloody everything. So there's nothing left for the cat to want to mark themselves. And it works extremely well. When they first launched it, I can't remember when, back when Noah was a boy, I, to my discredit, looked at it and thought on paper, well, this is never going to work. Cats are far too complex. I just can't see that it'll work. But I've had to eat my words several times over because I've seen literally hundreds of cases of inappropriate elimination, so peeing all over your house. I've seen hundreds of cases get better just by using the Feliway and including my own. So it is compelling. However, there are certain rules to doing this. So you need to read what it says on the label. If you've got the average size house, then then it's fine. Just plug it into the average size house, and it will produce the diffusing will be enough to fill the air throughout the house, and that'll do it. But if you've got a massive house, if you worked hard your whole life, it annoys me when people say you're lucky to have a big house. You're probably not lucky. You probably worked really hard, so well done to you. If you've got a really big house, you need more than one to fill that amount of airspace, and plug it in the obvious space. Don't go plug it in the back bedroom somewhere. You want to plug it in sort of the hallways and the open spaces, and if you've got an open plan house, sort of in the kitchen and the living room, the areas where the cat spends most of their time and where you'll most efficiently fill the house. And it's not an overnight fix. It would be great if it was as simple as that, but it's not an overnight fix. You're trying to reprogram the cat's mind, and just like people with mental issues like depression and anxiety, you're not going to fix these people immediately. You can fix them by reprogramming the brain, giving the reassurances, and just reprogramming the brain's responses. In the case of cats, specifically rechanging their views as to what constitutes a threat and what doesn't constitute a threat. So what that means in practical terms is plug it in and you'll see it drains out, and the liquid in there will run out in about a month's time, and plan really to keep it going for at least 3 months. I made the mistake of not practicing what I preach. So I got one, the cat stopped peeing on the sofa, the cat and I were friends again, had the sofa cleaned, everything was hunky-dory, did it for a month, thought, that's marvellous, I'll leave it there, and within a few days he started peeing on the sofa again. So 2 choices, buy more Feliway, strangle the cat. I love the cat, so I didn't strangle him, got more Feliway, and just committed to what I tell everyone to commit to in the first place, just at least 3 months. I went for 4 just to make it safe, and there we were. That solved the problem. So remember the concept again. Cats, when cats perceive a threat, they become stressed. When they're stressed, they need the reassurance of graffitiing the whole inside of your house to reassure themselves. They can graffiti it using facial pheromones, or scratching or peeing. And if we just substitute the scratching and the peeing for something else, so not only does it help for the cat peeing on your house, it also helps for the cat ripping your house to bits. An interesting point there, Feliway, you get the Feliway Classic, the one that's always been around, which is a great product. A while ago, they launched one called Feliway Friends, and that's the one you'd want to choose if nothing has changed, but you've noticed there's an increasing animosity and friction between your existing 2 cats at home, or if you've brought a new cat home. And what it helps, excuse me, it's specifically formulated to help resolve the inter-cat conflict. So your cat's not worried about your neighbor's cat. Your cat's worried about the cat that he's living with, that was his friend until recently, and for reasons unbeknownst to us, they've fallen out with each other, just like human beings do. So if you think your problem is literally direct cat to cat, your own cats in your own household, go with the Feliway Friends. Whereas if you think it's something other than that, go with the Feliway Classic. A few other little tips to use is where he or she has peed, don't clean that with any bleach-based products. Simply because bleach smells a little bit similar to ammonia or urea, which is in our wee. So you can confuse the cat. So you've cleaned it all. To you, it smells lovely and clean and bleachy. And to the cat, it smells remotely of urine. And they think, oh, bloody hell, that doesn't smell like my pee at all. I don't remember doing that. And you almost encourage them to pee some more. So don't use a bleach-based, use just a non-biological cleaner. And clean the space 2 or 3 times, the carpet or the sofa or whatever, and that should get rid of the smell. And then you rely on the the pheromones to cover it up, so the cat doesn't need to do that anymore. As an additional remedy, I would often say to people, clean it up with the non-biological cleaner. Once it's clean and dry, put a food bowl there. You have no intention of feeding the cat there. You may not want a food bowl in your living room or in your bedroom or wherever the cat's been peeing on the carpet or the furniture. But put a food bowl there on the premise that animals are not going to want to pee where their food source is. It doesn't make sense to contaminate your own food source. So if you just put a food bowl there, even if the cat doesn't eat it, it's just a disincentive to them, a further disincentive, because now you've taken away the smell, so they don't feel like they need to top up the pee that they've made there. You've put in a Feliway diffuser, so that's given the reassurance of the facial pheromone. But even if there is just an inkling that maybe I should go to that corner of the room and pee there again, because that's what I've been doing for the last few weeks, if they find a food bowl when they get there, there'll be a disincentive to do it. It's not for everything. You just do it there until you've broken the behavioral pattern. Also, if you have more than one cat at home, a very useful thing to do is make sure you have one more litter tray than you have cats. So if you've got 2 cats, have 3 litter trays. If you've got 3 cats, have 4 litter trays. And don't put all the litter trays in the same space. Put them in different rooms around the house. What's the thinking behind this? It's purely because if there is an animosity between your cats, and again, people will often say, no, my cats love each other, there's no animosity, they're very subtle, and there's very subtle mind games going on between them, and just like any normal human relationship, they may go through spells where they get on and where they don't. So if they're not getting on, they'll start competing for resources, meaning toilets, for example. If you have a litter tray, 2 of them both want to use the same toilet. They're not on good terms, so the one is going to try to defend that space as that's mine, get your own. So have more than one. And don't put both litter trays in the same room, because you may have your cat choosing to, let's say you've got them in your utility room in your kitchen, for example, and the only entrance to that from the house is via the living room. Well, if you might have one cat just apparently lounging on the sofa, taking no bother with anything in the world. But in fact, what they're often doing is, although they look like they're asleep, they got one eye open and they're looking at the other cat and saying, I dare you to come and try and pass me and get into the kitchen and use that litter tray. I dare you. So the other cat's going, oh, blimey, I'm busting, but it's being defended, so they've got a sense of stress, and they're going to start peeing around to reassure themselves. So don't put all the litter trays in one room, and have one more than you have cats, for 2 reasons. One is that one cat can't defend all of those, and secondly, if one cat has already peed in there, again, if they're not in good terms, the other cat's going to go, well, I'm not peeing in there. But if there's one more than every cat in the household and you're changing the litter trays every day, they'll find a litter tray which is unused and which will suit them, and they'll get to pee in it. So a combination of all of those factors will do it. If that all fails, and it can fail, we can look at other things to address stress. Zilkene is a great nutraceutical. It's a milk derivative, very useful for stress and anxiety. So if your Feliway doesn't work, you can try the Zilkene, and if that doesn't work, then yes, you could look at more conventional anxiolytic or sort of anti-anxiety drugs, including things like amitriptyline and even things like Prozac that you use in human beings. But I've never ended up having to use them. I know some vets do. I find that I can pretty much get the problem sorted out with the Feliway and or the Zilkene. Sometimes I'll even double up on them. But the main thing is don't expect this to fix the problem straight away. away, and don't expect it to be a quick and easy thing. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some commitment. Keep replacing the Feliway. Put the extra food bowls down. Put extra water bowls down, just like you're doing with the litter trays, so that A, they're not competing for resource. There's enough to go around, and B, by putting the food bowls where the pee has been, there's a further disincentive to weeing. So it's very, very fixable. I know the first reaction is a lot of people is they come in extremely frustrated, and typically I see a lady coming in saying the husband's at his wit's end, he's not prepared to tolerate this anymore, he's told me I've got to get rid of the cat, and everyone's terribly upset about it, as they should be. So just take heart. It's very, very sought outable, and we should fix most of these. And it reminds me of a wonderful quote I heard once that said, "There is no greater love than the love between a cat and the man in the house who didn't want the cat." Meaning, if you can just get past this business of the cat destroying your house, you'll find that the relationships between everybody will improve, and you'll all live happily ever after. Thank you for watching. I hope this was informative. Any questions, contact me on Nico the Vet, either at gmail.com or just via the website or the YouTube channel, I should say. And if there's any topics you'd like me to discuss, please let me know. Thank you. Bye-bye.